California Governor Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable, turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors. On Monday, he urged cities to ban the camps from sidewalks, parks, and...
Well, first, understand, being the inaugural guest, it wasn't really even sure what I was going into. Right, because at the front end, it was like, hey, there'll be no, gotcha questions. It'll just be a discussion, which was largely true. And secondly, when you arrive and they tell you all this stuff, they're like, oh, his son is a fan and all that. It was like so over the top, like charm offensive. I was like, are you going to want to?
Gavin Newsom suddenly decided homeless camps are unacceptable. The same guy who practically handed out invitations to turn sidewalks into open-air motels. Now he wants applause for noticing the mess he created that's like an arsonist bragging he discovered fire. California didn't need his revelation, it needed a governor.
Somebody here on this table called this first. That to get any action done, you may have to get the politician to feel the pain of their own policies intimately, and he got it right in the gut. Because I predicted In-N-Out was going to be the catalyst because it's his family's favorite restaurant. And when In-N-Out closed, that was a direct shot at him because you could BS the public, but you can't BS your kids who are now wishing he had gotten recalled.
Gavin Newsom, you just want political power. You have no guiding beliefs at all. Just leave the Democrat Party. That's my advice to him. If you really want to be in elected office that bad, just leave the Democrat Party and just go run as like a moderate Republican and just have some sort of like...
When In-N-Out packed up, it wasn't just burgers California lost, it was Newsom's last shred of credibility. He can gaslight voters all day, but not his own kids when they're craving fries. And as Charlie Kirk points out, Gavin's real dream isn't saving California, it's rebranding himself as a Republican light for the White House. Too bad the voters already tasted the product and sent it back.
So after years of denying the problem, he's now pretending to fix it, which is like putting on a condom as you're leaving a whorehouse. Who hasn't?
What's a condom?
But as always, when a far-left Dem runs for national office,
I'm a member of Turning Point or something, Governor Newsom. It was like it was like almost like nauseatingly positive, right? Mm-hmm. That in that way, it was very difficult to navigate. I will say, if you look at Gavin Newsom's numbers, there's a Newsweek article, though. His numbers are down dramatically as far as favorability, trust, authenticity since he started this podcast. It's not going very well for him of how people view him. So for that, I will say that I think we have done...
Greg Gutfeld sees through the polish. Newsom is basically a Netflix trailer, shiny dramatic, but once you press play, it's all chaos, tent cities, needles, potholes, and sky-high gas. California isn't his success story, it's his blooper reel. And the hair gel can't fix that. You can only spray so much gloss on failure.
Can you define, let's objectively define what a Democrat value is right now. You have Pritzker talking about values, and I'm trying to figure out, if you subtract common sense from the policies, what is the value?
Well, that's it. They can't state what they're for. Trump goes out and he says, we are going to close the border and we're going to fight to do it. He says we're going to clean up America's cities and we're going to fight to do it. So he has a policy and then he has the fight behind it. They just have...
When Joe Rogan looks at Newsom, he doesn't see a leader, he sees a salesman. The guy who markets California as a paradise while citizens flee like it's on fire. Rogan says Gavin's speeches sound less like policy and more like Instagram captions, polished, shallow, and disconnected from reality. You don't govern with hashtags, you govern with results.
To a big crowd.
By the way, I knew you were at USC early because my niece, who's graduating...
She was the one with the MAGA hat on.
She was... By the way, I do have to watch. But she was down there and she was like... She said,
you never know. These kids are going to the right.
I'm aware. She said, this crowd's crazy. The point, which is you are making a damn...
Greg Gutfeld doesn't hold back. To him, Newsom is the human version of a tech scam, promises of progress, but once you buy in, you're trapped in chaos. The governor talks about equality, but his California is divided between elites sipping wine and families living in tents. It's not leadership, it's false advertising with a fancy suit.
That's right. And just to reiterate your phenomenal open, Proposition 11 was voted on by the peak gerrymandering out of the hands of politicians and into this independent commission. Now, it's far from perfect. Some of the maps in California are a little bit creative, to say the least, a little circuitous. But however, it did have some sort of a spirit that the people of California did not want politics involved in the drawing of their maps. In fact, a recent poll shows that 64% of Californians do not want to see Gavin Newsom.
Megyn Kelly cuts straight to it. Newsom sells himself as a savior, but his record looks more like a demolition job. She points out the hypocrisy, strict lockdowns for everyone else while he dined at French Laundry. California didn't get leadership, it got a billboard for arrogance. And the only thing bigger than his ego is the price tag on dinner.
Gavin Newsom, if you're listening to this, you're a failure. Mayors are actually some of the most powerful people in the country. The police are responsive to the mayor. The building code's responsive to the mayor. The homeless, mayors are very, very powerful. So he was mayor of San Francisco. Would you let your son walk the streets of San Francisco unaccompanied at 1 a.m.? No, you wouldn't. I'm sorry. Your son can't walk the streets of the city that you were in.
For Charlie Kirk, Newsom is the poster child of rules for the not for me. He calls out how Gavin plays progressive champion while dodging accountability for California's collapse. Kirk says it best Newsom isn't running a state, he's running auditions for the Oval Office. California's downfall is just his campaign resume.
This is where the left is really pro-trans. Suddenly, they grow balls. So Newsom is fed up with tent cities, the crime, the urban decay? No, he's not mad about that stuff. He's mad you noticed. It's like a criminal telling a jury he's sorry he robbed 25 banks when he's just sorry he got caught on the 26th.
Joe Rogan doesn't mince words. He calls Newsom a master of illusion, polished speeches, slick image, but the reality on California streets is disaster. Tent cities, drug overdoses, people fleeing. If this is leadership, Rogan says, then Hollywood deserves an Oscar for best special effects. Gavin's not fixing problems, he's directing them.
Gavin goes full douchebag. Jeff, while J.D. Vance was visiting Disneyland with his family, Gavin Newsom criticized him on X, writing, "Hope you enjoy your family time, J.D. Vance. The families you're tearing apart, certainly."
Greg Gutfeld compares Newsom to a bad reboot, lots of hype, no substance, and somehow worse than the original. California under Gavin isn't the golden state, it's the broken state. And the governor is still busy rehearsing his "I swear I can fix this" monologue for Washington. Someone tell him the box office already tanked.
If you could be the governor of any state, what would it be? And you might say, oh, I would be in Texas, live free or die. No, that's New Hampshire. Just live free, whatever. It's
or just die.
Die, or just, it's California. Because people can live under the most incompetent governance ever, but it's still California.
Megyn Kelly reminds everyone that Newsom's charisma is his greatest weapon and his biggest scam. California's decline proves charm can't fill potholes, lower gas prices, or make streets safe. She says Gavin isn't governing, his auditioning, and the rest of America better take notes. If this is his resume, the country's in trouble.
Newsom needs to dig himself out of a hole. This is what it's all about. This is about Gavin Newsom's failed podcast strategy. Gavin Newsom had a podcast strategy, which I was the first guest on, where he was going to try to moderate himself and try to do the bro-y podcast culture, of which he was really bad at. He didn't know his facts, his figures. He didn't really know how to deal with facts like myself and other people. And he thought he was going to be welcomed in.
Charlie Kirk calls Newsom a walking contradiction. He preaches climate justice but flies private jets, demands compassion but enforces rules selectively. To Kirk, Gavin isn't a visionary, he's a slick marketer selling a broken product. The problem is every buyer ends up bankrupt.
Do you think he really meant that?
I don't think.
When he said enjoy it? I don't think he did.
Who knows? Who knows what this lizard person really thinks ever? He's literally the wormiest little snake about everything.
When Greg Gutfeld roasts Newsom, it's brutal. He says Gavin looks like a leading man but acts like a background extra in his own state. California isn't thriving, it's barely surviving. And yet the governor struts like he's America's next big thing. Hollywood might buy it. Voters not so much.
But the Democrat Party, they do not want someone to start a podcast. They want a quote-unquote fighter against Donald Trump. All Gavin Newsom cares about is being president of the United States. That's all he cares about. That's all that this is. This is a 2028 strategy. And so Gavin Newsom is going to try to call a special session to overturn the will of the voters. I thought it was all about democracy, right? It's not democracy. It's about oligarchy.
Joe Rogan says Newsom represents everything fake about modern politics. A man more concerned with optics than results. California bleeds residents' businesses and hope, but Gavin smiles for the cameras like nothing's wrong. Rogan calls it the greatest magic trick disaster disguised as leadership. But the illusion's collapsing live on stage.
Got the best weather, the best environment. It's a beautiful state. As much as I grew up there, I love it there. And if you're rich, you can pay the outrageous taxes and live far away from the rabble, the stinky rabble. And sure, hundreds of thousands of people are leaving, but it's not that really bothers all of these.
Megyn Kelly points out that Newsom thrives on spin. He talks about progress while ignoring decay. She says California isn't his platform, it's his prop. And the real tragedy, the people paying the price for his ambitions are the same ones he claims to protect. Politics is his show, California is just the stage he's burning.
The baseline component of all of this is that the people of California, Republican and Democrat, socialist and libertarian, they don't want politicians involved in the drawing of the maps. Gavin Newsom does not care because he wants to be president more than listen to the voters of California.
Charlie, you remind me of something there. I had forgotten that you were the first guest into Gavin Newsom's attempt.
Greg Gutfeld wraps it up best. Newsom is the political equivalent of hair gel shiny slick but ultimately empty. California is cracking under his watch, yet Gavin parades himself as the model Democrat. Gutfeld says America should take one look at California and run the other way. Because if this is progress, decline is the sequel.